So last week I was working on a microfilm for a competition, and when it came to the edit, I realized that bro completely messed up the color space, the exposure. There was legit nothing interesting about the location. Some shots were out of focus, and to make things worse, he shot it on a 5-year-old Samsung smartphone. And now I'm meant to do some black magic to make everything look sensational. And if you're wondering, yeah, I'm basically that guy. But here's how I managed to manipulate a 5-year-old smartphone footage into something that left people in shock using color chemistry, depth-defying techniques, and a bit of my secret juice filled with tips and tricks you'd never expect. So make sure you have your pens and papers, because you already know this video is gonna be good.
This video is brought to you by Creative Fuel, an all-in-one platform that will ensure a 1 of 10 on your channel within 30 days. Link in description.
Okay, so basically this is the timeline of the microfilm. I'm calling it microfilm because it's really not really a film. It's just like me doing a bunch of stuff. And as you can see, this is the top layer that has basically all the video tracks on it. Nothing too much. They're color coded, and I'll be getting to that soon. Here, this is the music track, this first track here. I basically had the music from Pixabay and I took it to Premiere Pro to like remix it and shorten it to about like a minute thereabout. So this full clip is like 1 minute. Down here is my sound design layer, and that's pretty much, this is like audio from the camera too. Also the film it had a theme of like, when I was editing it, what I had in mind was love, dream and jazz. That was the theme in mind. So it was the competition for Film Vibes, which is like a platform. This is not sponsored video, but just basically to go on your website and pick a bunch of reference shots and try and make something from it. So I had a bunch of references, just a bunch of them. I didn't use any of those. I ended up using these ones I got from Film Vibes too. So something like this, then this is just basically someone walking down. So this was basically my reference. So because I knew I was shooting on a 4-year-old's phone, I decided to record in HDR10+. Luckily, S10 Plus is how. So, but then when you shoot in 60 FPS, I was in pro mode by the way. When you shoot in 60 FPS, it turns off, which I didn't realize until like later on down the shoot. So I ended up having issues where I have some footages in Rec 709 and then some footages in HDR10+, meaning that I cannot really play around with colors as I want to. I ended up using something that's called color chemistry, which is something I actually made up to just describe how I analyze colors and just be like, okay, how can I make this thing pop? I balance the footage and then I make it pop later. So if I'm doing that, if I move to the color page here, you have everything looking fairly normal. Like this is how it looked. Nothing crazy, just normal stuff. Looking good. Yeah, this was all we had. So the first step I did, let me turn this all off. Let me just turn them off like this. Yeah, so the first thing I actually did was to apply a LUT. I just did normal, I grouped them, all the Rec 709 clips, I grouped all of them here, Rec 709, and then my input color space is Rec 709 to DaVinci Resolve Intermediate. If you want to know how I actually did this, you can check my last video, DaVinci Resolve Intermediate, very simple stuff. And then here into Senior Film Log, just to apply the LUT. I really advise you applying the LUT after you're done balancing the clip. But then for these ones, I knew that they were fairly balanced. So let's just say I've done all that and the white balance is good, everything is fine. Then you apply the LUT. If I pull up my scopes here, you can see that it's looking fairly reasonable. But then this was the first version I did and it was looking too yellow. So I ended up doing yellow to like try and bend the color of the leaves just to see what I can play around with the whole color chemistry thing. But then everything was just leaning toward one contrast, which is not a bad thing, but then I wanted separation. So I ended up trying this out and this wasn't really giving what I wanted. So I sat with what I'm about to show you now. So the first step I did was actually apply my contrast, which is something I always do. I didn't apply that much contrast this time around because the LUT already has its own inbuilt contrast, if you get what I mean. So I just played around with it just a tiny bit just to boost it up. Then I stepped down the exposure because it was overexposed, as you can see. And then I didn't touch saturation, all these other nodes, they were actually not working. Then the next thing I did was to apply this look here, see my look node here. This is actually a DCTL from Tetra, which I spoke about in my last video, you can check it out. I can basically bend colors how I please, as you can see. I'm just basically bending the green to make it sit. This is like being a perfect thing, orange, you get me? Or like a blue, opposite quadrant type stuff. So yeah, that's where I sat for this particular shot. I could have, if I wanted to move the yellow around, which I didn't really find very useful, I could bend it around and do whatever I want to do. I mean, it works better. Like I said, this is actually a Rec 709 clip, so the colors don't really bend as well as you want them to. But yeah, I ended up sitting at around here and I was fine with that. It just added enough separation that I needed. I didn't use any power grades, nothing. So this is basically the simplest of all the grades I did throughout the shot. So let's move on to the next one. Similar to the last one, I tried playing with something like this, which is red, and trying to see what I could contrast. So you have red and yellow here. Everything also lying on one node. This is look node here, tetra. So I did some balancing. And then the truth was, for this kind of shots, the logic is, if the skin and the blocks look good, everything is going to look fine. So if you look at what I did here, the skin is fairly consistent. Look at my vector scope down here. You can see that as I'm putting my cursor here, it's always there, either on or off. It's correct. So it just sells the look. Do you understand? So I ended up sitting with this one. This is my version 1. Yeah, this was what I eventually sat with, which is just pushing everything to yellow and relying on her genes to give us the opposing color. So before and after. And I think I did a bit of exposure, just a tiny bit, nothing serious. And then the contrast, and then exposure, you see, just to boost it up a bit. And that was fairly reasonable. For this shot, this is where I'm actually talking about color chemistry. This location is the exact same as this location. But then you can see that the green here is different from the green here. I mean, they weren't necessarily following each other back to back in the sequence, if I recall properly. But then I was just like, I like how it looked this way instead of me shifting. I think if I let me copy this and actually paste it here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I mean, you can see it doesn't hit the same way like this one does. So that's why I left it this way. I actually tried some other versions. There's a yellow version, and there was the darker blue, and we sat down here, which is just, if in my opinion, it was just like the better version to sit with. So similar to last time, just played around with the exposure, just ensuring that the skin tone is consistent. So whatever method you're using to bend your colors, even if you're going to use, I don't like using qualification, especially in 8-bit footages like this that are really not high res. You risk losing quality. The image you just end up bending. So you just try to avoid that in general. So similar to the last one, everything was just very boring, and I just had to try and play around to see if I could get something interesting. I mean, this is the same location. You can see the orange is brighter here than the orange is here. And the reason for that is because if I actually try to push the orange too much, I'll have lost the realism. Imagine if all these dark parts were just basically yellow. So it's not really sit that well. But then, like I said previously, the skin is what really matters. So if you look at her skin is sitting fairly consistently. I added a bit of contrast. So like I said, apply the contrast. See the LUTs. So apply the LUTs. The LUTs add its own contrast. I add a bit more. Then I step up the exposure. I use my HDR rules to step up exposure because it's like a linear space. Do you understand what I'm saying? So instead of using the logarithmic wheels, that's like here, this color wheels here, it's better to use here, or just basically right click and change your color space to linear. You change your color space to your gamma to linear, and then you use your primaries here, use the gain, and you get a similar result. But yeah, that's why I did that. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the yellow here isn't like the yellow here. I was just like, nah, I shouldn't really push it that way, because like I said, I had some constraints with you can even see there's lack of information in this shot, my guy. It's basically out of focus. But yeah, I was just like, okay, if I push it too far, the image started to break. So I just like, okay, let me move it to an extent that it to be fairly reasonable. Yeah, so that's why I ended up where I ended. And you can see this shot and this shot, they are much more closer than this shot and this shot. See, like, there are different tints of the whole yellow type stuff. Do you understand? And then I think this is a good segue. This is like talking about the fact that I really had less resolution to work with. I think this is a good time for me to talk about the fact that I still had to make some compromises with the location precisely, because like I said, I was shooting on the phone. I really couldn't. There's some backgrounds that were rather distracting and were kind of disturbing. So that brings us to the next phase, where I like to call depth define. It's also I'm not made up word, to be real with you. Anyway, so the depth define procedure was just me basically trying to see how can I play around with the location to give it just a little bit more depth. So like maybe like, let me show you. Let me not talk too much. Let me show you. So this brings us to our like my legit favorite shot in this film here. So now you can see this looks very believable in my opinion. In my opinion, it looks very believable. And it's similar to what I did last time, which is just me basically just shifting the colors. Tetra is goated, my guy. But the truth is, if you can see there, like if you've noticed, there are two more nodes here that were not there originally. These are the depth nodes. So it wasn't really just okay for me to just pump the color. I mean, it was, but like you see, you can see the other variations. I was like, okay, since I'm going for a dreamy look, why don't I just play around with it and make something rather unrealistic? The whole yellow vibe was like getting too consistent. It was either yellow, green, or blue. So I was like, let's just pump him something that is a bit far from possibilities, which was pink. So with this pink version, it was fairly reasonable. Still keeping things in mind, like making sure that the skin tone is fairly consistent, and then just playing around with the contrast to give it a bit more oomph. I wasn't satisfied because this is very distracting. First of all, we're having blown out skies here because I was not shooting HDR10+ for this shot. This was just Rec 709, so no high dynamic range, nothing. So I was left with this to work with, and I was rather pissed. So I was like, okay, why don't I come here and create a depth map? So for those of you that don't know what a depth map is, this is a depth map. Let's wait for it to load. It's loading, thank God. So this is a depth map, and I just basically tried to select my subject using these sliders and stuff. So I isolated just to make her stand out more for me there to be. So the black areas are the, the further away points, or the places that are out of focus. Let's just put it that way. I did some processing, like some filtering to kind of finalize it and give her that proper shape to make the cutout better. So if I turn off this, I fed the alpha layer to the other node. This other node is the defocus background. This is actually a very new node that came into DaVinci Resolve, the focus background, this one. So if you're not on 19, you'll probably not see it. But there are other ways to play around with it. You might as well just come here and play with the normal blow down here. Just tweak it. But yeah, I used the defocus background here, and I got my mask. If you see the mask preview, it's going to come. Can you see it? So this is the mask coming in, and yeah, I didn't tweak this because I didn't really need to. I did all the tweaking I needed to do from the mask itself. So I just put the blow on 0.5. I think that's the default. If I increase it, it becomes more unrealistic. You can see the cutout here is really not that smooth. So just leave it at a fairly reasonable point like this. Yeah, I mean, nobody's really going to be zooming in like this. So it looks fairly reasonable. And the saturation, I left it at the highest. If I desaturated it, yeah, that was not really dope. So I left it at the highest. I didn't really colorize it. I think I left it down where it was because I don't need any color. I just like the way it was. Advanced options, you can change the type of blur from lens to Gaussian blur. So for a more realistic feel, you're most likely going to choose lens because I mean, you want to make it look like a lens. And then the beauty of the lens blur is that it adds this like highlights and anamorphism type stuff, just some fancy stuff. So yeah, I just left that way, and that really elevated the shots. I mean, there's nobody that will tell you that this was not how it was. And see where I come from. So before and after, all the guys that are down here, they get blown out. This does being gets let's come less distracting. And these are some little things you can do to elevate some of the footages that don't really look that good. Now that gives us a good segue to my favorite clip of them all. This one. Oh my god. I know you're wondering, what is so beautiful about this? My guy. It's because I turned off node, my guy. So watch this. Let's break down this full thing because I did more than what I did the last time. My LUT turns this on. Same LUT as all of them. All of them is the same LUT. So this is fine. This is fairly fine. You can look at, problem with Rec 709 is everything is already properly exposed. Technically, like it's already, you don't have any room to work with. So right here already, I applied my LUT. It pushes it a bit. it adds that kind of like greenish vibe into it. So I tweak my contrast just to add a bit, then I boost my exposure. And I think you can see where we are going here. The image is starting to have life. I had add a bit of saturation, and then for my saturation, it's actually the compound note. I'm using the HSV, so you come here to color space, HSV, and then for your channels, you turn off channel 1 and 3. So when you come back to your color wheels here, you'll be able to use your gamma to play around with the saturation. I see. The beauty of this saturation is that it doesn't increase the exposure, overall exposure of footage. And what I mean by that is, let's say let me create another node here. Just create another node here, and I come and use the default saturation. You can see how our face becomes brighter. I don't know if you can see. Long I should just take my word, bro. I mean, if you don't believe me, sorry, but that's what it is. So then the next thing was for me to play around with the pink. Oh Jesus, this pink was beautiful. Tetra is a blessing from God, honestly. Link to Tetra in the description. It's actually a free tool. That's the best part. Tetra is actually free. Beautiful stuff. And by the way, shout out to Heritage. Very beautiful model. Anyway, so if you look at the curves, I use the curves to add a bit more saturation precisely to just the skin tone area. So I pointed, you can see just a little bit of push, just a tiny bit, just for the skin, just to add that much, just that little bit of saturation to the whole footage. So moving down here, I didn't do any palettes. Then similar to before, I did a depth map. If I preview the depth map, you see that something is looking funny. Yeah. So you see the depth map. I isolated her this time around, because if I didn't isolate, it was going to have like this leaf and stuff. So I isolated her to just completely blur her alone, like blur anything outside of her. And I applied this beautiful masterpiece. Oh Jesus, watch. Oh God. Wow. I mean, like, look at this. This looks like it was shot on the camera, and it was shot on a phone that is not great. So yeah, and I mean, obviously I made sure that when I was recording, I recorded in pro mode, so I could actually leave everything in manual. So I wasn't recording auto. If I didn't say that earlier on, I wasn't recording auto. I was actually recording in manual throughout. So my shutter speed, everything was consistent for like throughout. So that's why I can see I can basically copy and paste things. But speaking of that, that brings us to a mighty problem I had eventually, which was this shot. Now you see, similar, you just saw that it was pink, but you know, I was telling you about the whole thing about the skin should look fairly consistent so that it sells the whole thing. Black should look black so that it sells the whole thing. Yada yada yada. Look at this, my guys. What is this? You can even see from the vectorscope that she's not even sitting on on the skin tone line. I mean, there's a quadrant that is basically sitting, but it's barely sitting. And the issue there was I really couldn't push it because it's an 8-bit footage. So it was already clapped from the beginning. Like I was already set for failure. I was set for failure. So I tried different things, and I mean, this lasted for like how many seconds? It lasted for like a brief while. So I mean, you could get away with it. Nobody really noticed. I mean, I didn't see any comments telling me that, oh bro, you messed up the skin tone. So I think I got away with it, and yeah, that was really nice. So now to my nice tips and tricks. These ones are actually kind of out of the color grading zone, to be real with you. So let's move back to the color page, I mean to the edit page here, to my magic juice type stuff. So for the juice, I would like to say that okay, so let's turn this on and off. Hi Bliss. Hi Sharon. It is a video. I'm recording a video. I'm recording a video. Yeah. Hi.
Just come.
Yeah. So I was trying to call you, but it just wasn't working. Yeah. So back to the tips and tricks. I want to talk about like two precisely. This is kind of like based on the whole theme of everything. So if you look at this beginning part, you're wondering why is there a gutter. So this gutter here was just like for an opening scene. If I try and play the audio, I hope it plays out well. So yeah, everything was basically left for sound design, to be real with you. This is basically what sold the rest of this. the sound design section. So just me basically trying to look at okay, what's happening, the bird sounds, all this type of stuff. Do you understand? Nothing crazy. But then precisely I want to talk about this section here. So if you look at, you know what, let's see something. Let me try and play it with the audio clip muted so you just hear that section precisely. So it's like this jazz stuff where the song so it's like it starts from, for those of you who are music inclined, it starts from like a higher note, like like chromatic scale from up to down. So let me just play for you and just shut up my mouth. Okay, so that's it. And then I was like, when I was editing, I remember I saw a clip and I was like, okay, this is giving the feeling of coming from up to down. So why don't I just replicate that in my actual film since I had something like that? So coming from here, coming down, the hand comes down smoothly. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my! And I feel like as much as most people don't even realize that that really did something, in my opinion, I feel like it adds to the whole vibe in general. Do you understand what I'm saying? It adds to it, in my opinion. Some clips were actually very, very much underexposed, like this one precisely. Even though I tried boosting it myself, like when I was recording the manual, I tried increasing the exposure. I risked a situation where if it was like if I over boosted it, let me use that word. If I boosted it too much in recording, I might not have had enough space to work with. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I just ended up flashing completely. Like I decided not to touch it at all. Do you get what I'm saying? So this clip here is dark, as you can see, underexposed, and then the sky is here. So I had a situation where I was like, do I completely forfeit the sky or do I not forfeit the sky? And I chose to forfeit the sky. So let's just break down this full grid similar to how we did the last ones. So step one, I added my LUT, and basically LUT already took out the sky, to be real with you. The LUT already took out the sky, and you know the LUT is on for all the clips quite literally. So I now had to work on my exposure myself. So I didn't really, I increased the exposure by like I think a full stop, okay, like 0.5, that's like 0.5, so it gives more life into it. But it's this lot of noise, haha. But I think that noise was in post actually. I mean the grain was in post. Yeah, it was in post. Anyway, so yeah, also you can use grain to hide a lot of things. I didn't tell you that. You can use grain to hide a lot of nonsense. But yeah, yeah, so the exposure was done just to lift it a bit. Then added just another bit of contrast to this, a bit of saturation. Then I moved down again all this way off. Then my look, just to give the green a little bit more life. This was just normal pushing of the green. I just came here and I dragged the green. I just gave it more life. You feel me? Just a bit more life. Then I came here and I did the exact same thing again, which is to get a depth mark, and I added a bit of blue on it. Yeah, which gives it that. Let's wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh Jesus. Oh, someone should buy me a new computer. I really don't mind, please. I think someone should sponsor me. I'm really sorry. It didn't show. It didn't did. I'll show you in the post. I'll just show you. But yeah, that's basically what this grade was. Nothing more crazy than that. Yeah. So yeah, I hope I'm able to explain something to you, and I hope you're that's it. I hope I'm able to bestow upon you some little bit of wisdom with like some life like hands-on experience and stuff like that. I see how I was able to elevate a rather useless video into something that makes more sense. So yeah, thank you for watching. Right here will be the full video, just like 1 minute. Go and check it out and give me some love, you feel me? Also on the right hand side will be a video where I explained how I do teal and orange look without needing to do any qualification, similar to how I showed you how I basically kept the skin tone intact without touching anything. I did not just use Tetra in that one, I used some other tools that you might want to check out. So make sure you click here to check that out, and make sure you subscribe to see other videos. Bye bye. Bye 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 bye. Yeah, I think that was okay. My God. Finally. Hallelujah. Oh my god, my shot is even exposed. That's sad.
This video on their feed that they don't watch it. 30 seconds, simple 30 seconds. If you don't watch it, you're done. I'll end you.